I know this sounds crazy, but which coach do you think is on the hot seat more? Marcus Freeman or Dabo Swinney? All right, I'm going to start this off with a disclaimer. Neither of these coaches is on the hot seat. Neither one of these guys will get fired if they have a bad year this year. And bad year is relatively speaking, because we're talking about Clemson and Notre Dame with significant talent advantages over most of the teams they're going to play. So we would talk a bad, quote unquote, bad year would be like 8-4. Nobody's getting fired. I'm going to say that right off the bat. But if Dabo Swinney keeps trending in the wrong direction, there will be angst. If Marcus Freeman does not continue to ascend as he grows older and more mature as a coach, then there will be angst. So while nobody's getting fired this year, this is a case where the trajectory needs to be correct by the end of this season, or there will be angst going to next season. And again, I'm not saying anybody's getting fired because the numbers are pretty ridiculous, especially when it comes to Dabo Swinney. So Dabo Swinney, after this season, his buyout would be $60 million. And it was funny because I actually had a hard time finding the buyout, because when anybody's written about Dabo Swinney's buyout, it's been in terms of if he left to take another job, what he would owe Clemson. Nobody even thinks about the possibility of him getting fired, so nobody even thinks about what his buyout would be. Yes, I know that Texas A&M paid a $77 million buyout to fire Jimbo Fisher last year. Clemson is not paying a $60 million buyout to fire Dabo Swinney. Not happening. Also, here's an incredible stat that I'm sure my mind knew was true, but when I saw it again just today, I was like, are you kidding me? Last year was Clemson's first single-digit win season since 2010. 2010. Remember that season? They went 6-7. Dabo fired Billy Napier as the offensive coordinator, hired Chad Morris. Like, that's how long ago that was. They have won 10 or more games every year since then until 2023. So when Dabo Swinney says buy Clemson stock, and that was just a momentary dip at the beginning of last season, it's okay if you believe him, because he's got the record to back it up. And it's also why, if you're Clemson, you are not firing him or even thinking about it. That said, if this season looks a lot like last season, and then the next season looks a lot like this season and last season, that's not going to go over well. Because while Dabo Swinney has raised everything to do with Clemson's football program, he also has raised the expectations. And so they expect more than losing 4 games. They expect more than not fielding a roster that can really compete for the national title. And I think in the era of the transfer portal, if you don't use the transfer portal, then you probably won't, because the teams that do use the transfer portal are just more efficient. If they make recruiting mistakes, they cover them up with players that they got out of the portal who are veterans, who they have scouted playing against college level competition, who they know they can plug and play. That's something that Clemson can't really do because they don't use the transfer portal. And Dabo has talked about why. And it makes sense. Most of the players in the portal not good enough to be better than the players Clemson actually recruits. Also, a lot of those players that go into the portal, the deal's already done. They've already figured out where they're going. It's the third group, the ones who actually could help Clemson, that according to Dabo Swinney, Clemson can't afford. That's the one that they've got to figure out. Now, with the schools putting in most of the money to pay the players from now on, it won't be all of it. It'll be most of it, though. Does that change things? Does that increase what Clemson can afford? That's what I want to see this coming off season. How much does that change? Does Dabo start using the portal because suddenly they can afford players that can help Clemson? Because if they do that, they're right back in it. But if they keep going down this path, they're not going to be back to the level they want to be. Now, Freeman's a different story. Notre Dame's been pretty all in on NIL, on helping him get the best players he can get. He's now got to just show he's learning as a head coach. And remember, we had him on the show after the Ohio State game, and he was talking about the play where they had 10 men on the field and how they, the next day, had devised a call to make sure they never find themselves in that situation again. And I pointed out the Kirby Smart comparison. You know, we talk about Kirby Smart. They made the national title game his second year as a head coach. They lost. The third year, they have the horrible fake punt in the SEC championship game. And the whole time I'm thinking, Kirby Smart is a young head coach. This is all still very new to him. Same with Marcus Freeman in the past 2 years. And so the first year they lose to Marshall. You know, that's the sort of thing you sort of learn from those mistakes. Now, they didn't have the shocking loss last year, except you could say Louisville, but you kind of saw that coming a mile away. Louisville was really good. Notre Dame was playing all these huge primetime games in a row. Like, you kind of saw that coming. If they're going to win the games they're supposed to win, looking at the schedule they have this year, then they should be in the playoff. You're talking about an 11-1 or a 10-2 team that should make the playoff. That's where Marcus Freeman needs to live. He needs to live in that 5 to 8 seed range of the playoff, because that's where Notre Dame should be. That is kind of why Jack Swarbrick, the former Notre Dame athletic director, helped design the playoff this way, because it allows Notre Dame to stay independent in football, which is what Notre Dame wants, but it allows them a chance to compete for the national title. So that is why that system, is the way it is, why Notre Dame is positioned this way, and Marcus Freeman's got to live there. Now, if they go 9-3 this year, they miss the playoff, yeah, people are going to be pissed. And I think Marcus Freeman would start next year on the hot seat in that case. Like, you would have to be better than that, because this system is pretty much designed for Notre Dame to be an at-large team. So he needs to put them in the playoff. Now, do they have to go deep in the playoff? No, just get in, and then you're going to have years where you go deep, and especially as he recruits a deeper roster, like we just talked about, you will have a chance to play for national titles. But you got to be in it. And so can't put 10 men on the field in a critical play against Ohio State. Can't lose to Marshall. These are the things that if Marcus Freeman has learned from those things in his first 2 years as a head coach, guess what? He's going to be just fine. But yeah, if with this schedule, they don't make the college football playoff with a 12-team playoff, people in Notre Dame are going to be pissed. It won't be good enough. So I think Marcus Freeman understands that. I think he's well aware that he needs to make the playoff. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.